Happy Sunday morning, Stampers. This is Kathy Hansen, and today I'm going to bring you this card that we made for Crazy Card Chicks yesterday. This was a card kit. People pick up card kits to go, and they take them home and make them. We're not quite doing live stamp camps yet. So this was my card. I love this paper. I got it from scrapbook.com, and it is, it's actually called Candy Shop, I think. What does it say here? It's by Reminisce, and it's called Chocolate Candy, and it's in a set, I think, that's called Candy Shop. So I love it. But in any event, this is the front of the card, and this is the inside. Chocolate is the answer. Who cares what the question is? A lot of fun. So let's start with the pieces parts. These are all the pieces parts, and I have several ways that I made these pieces parts. First of all, the paper, like I said, is the chocolate candy, and it's cool paper because on the front it's got this little chocolate thing down in the corner with cupcakes and chocolate covered strawberries and all kinds of fun stuff, but on the opposite side it's all one solid piece. So what I did is I cut that chocolate out to make this piece here. I cut out the chocolate and then I scanned it on my computer and shrunk it down to the size that I wanted, because as you can see, it's pretty big. The original piece was going to be way too big for my card, so I cut it out, and then I copied several of the images on a piece of paper and cut them out with my scan and cut, and then I increased the border on it to cut a chocolate layer underneath and a cinnamon layer underneath that. So basically that's what I did, is I put all of those pieces parts together, and then for the joy, I have a die cut that I used, and that is from, this is a set from Stampin' Cut, Hero Arts, and it's got the joy die up here at the top, and then it has a stamp set that goes with it. And I didn't use any of these stamps, but I did use the die cut. And I cut it out of mirror paper. This is, or mirror card is what it's called, and it was rose platinum, kind of shiny, really shiny. But the color was rose platinum, but it looks kind of chocolate on this card, or I don't know, chocolate glaze maybe. And then again, I cut out the first piece, I copied it, and then I copied several images on one sheet of paper, scanned that in to my scan and cut, and cut out all of, well, I die cut all of the joys, the original piece. Then I increased the margin to cut out the chocolate, and I increased the margin again to cut out the cinnamon. So the colors that I used for that cardstock were Stampin' Up! Colors. Early Espresso is the chocolate color, and then this cinnamon below is called Cinnamon Cider, and it's actually a retired Stampin' Up! Color. For the inside sentiment, this piece was stamped, and this stamp is a set from Rubbernecker Stamps, and oh, I've misplaced it, but it is a set from Rubbernecker. The sentiment, do I have it? Oh, here it is. Okay, Rubbernecker Stamps, and this is Chocolate is the Answer. The item name is The Question Is. So that was what I used for that, and I used a punch from Stampin' Up! To punch it out. And again, what I did for that, how I cut out these layers, I did basically the same thing. I cut one piece, I punched out one piece so that this is like a template, and then I used that piece and traced around the inside of it on this piece of paper, just several copies of it, ran that through my scan and cut, and then I had the size that I needed, so that when I went to make these pieces, all I had to do was increase that size just slightly, and then to do the cinnamon cider piece, same thing, I increased it even a little bit more for that layer. So that's how I made all of those layers. Scan and cut, I tell you, makes life a lot easier when I'm making a lot of card kits. So let's go ahead and assemble this. Starting on the inside, you know, and this one, actually the layers are a little bit thicker because I used a little bit different measurements for the shadows behind it, the layers. And then when I went to cut it out for all of the kits, I actually accidentally cut it a little smaller, but I like the new look just as well. So let's go ahead and put this together. These are the top pieces. And here's the inside. So for the inside, what I did is I put the cinnamon cider on the bottom. It's a brand new tape runner refill, and it's just a little bit sticky, a little goopy this morning. Then I put, and this piece is 5 1/4 by 4 inches. The card base is 5 1/2 by 8 1/2, scored at 4 1/4 inches. This piece is 5 inches by 3 3/4 inches. So I'm just going to put that right over the cinnamon cider, and that's a pretty small margin. That's about a 1/16 of an inch margin on there. Okay, then I assembled this piece. So the chocolate piece goes on, I'm sorry, the chocolate sentiment goes on top of the chocolate piece, and this is a very narrow margin. I don't think it's even a 1/16 of an inch. It's pretty small. You can see that's a pretty tight border there. And then that goes on top of the cinnamon cider. Again, just a tiny little shadow around there. So this is the finished piece. And then I'm just going to put that on the inside. I don't generally like to pop things up on the inside of my card. So I'm just going to center that and put that right in the middle. So that's the inside of the card. Then for the front, I kind of like to put it out flat like this. It's easier to work with than having it folded, because this piece keeps wanting to flop up when I'm working on it. So I kind of set it this way. So here is another piece of cinnamon cider, 5 1/4 by 4 inches. That's going to go first. And that's just going to be centered on the front of the card. Then I'm going to take this beautiful paper. You can see here's part of that design on the back of it, but I'm using the back side because I don't want any of that design to show up. And then I'm just going to put that. I don't think there's an up or a down side to this paper. I think you can put it whichever direction you like. Those swirls are just so yummy looking. Okay, then I'm going to layer these pieces up. So the chocolate word is going to go on top of the early espresso cardstock. So I'm just going to carefully line that up. It's going to be easier if I put that on a lighter background. Carefully line that up. Okay, so there's the first layer. And then I will put that on top of the cinnamon cider. And there is our chocolate. Chocolate! I like chocolate almost as much as I like coffee. Well, I don't know, it's a toss-up. I kind of maybe like them both. I don't eat much chocolate, but I sure like it when I do. And I'm just going to put that on at an angle. It doesn't really matter where you put it. This piece, I'm actually going to use some liquid glue, so I'm going to put a piece of paper underneath that so I don't get the glue on my mat here. So I'm just putting little dots of it on the corners here, on the edges. You don't have to really trace the whole thing. Just put a few dots here and there, just enough to hold it down. But I do like to get the edges, the top edges, the bottom edges, and these ends that are sticking out, these tails. Okay, so that I'm going to carefully line up on top of, you can't even see what I'm doing with my big hand in the way. Okay, I'm going to carefully line that up on top of the early espresso, or the early espresso cutout. That's pretty close. I might have gotten it off just a little bit. You know what I like about this mirror paper, or this mirror card as well, is that if you get a little goopy glue on the top of it, after it dries, you can just scratch it off. This isn't like foil paper where it kind of scratches the surface of it. This is a very hard surface. So I can just take my thumbnail, and if I have a little glue excess here and there, I can just scrape that right back off, and it doesn't affect the finish of this paper at all. Gorgeous, beautiful paper. And that was by, that mirror card is made by Craft Perfect. It's made by Tonic Studios. So, very cool. I don't know if you can you? Yeah, it's kind of hard to see that through the foil. But it's Tonic Studios, and it's tonic-studios.co.uk. I get it from a friend of mine who has a craft store. So, it's just awesome stuff. Okay, then I'm going to take this piece, and I think I'm just going to splash a little more liquid glue on this piece, and I'm going to put that on top of the cinnamon cider. So here's the cinnamon cider. Lining that up again as carefully as I can to get that centered and get a little bit of a peak of that cinnamon cider underneath. I like to use liquid glue for things like this because it gives you a little wiggle room before it's dry if you need to slightly adjust it. So that looks pretty good. It's got all the layers showing. Okay, so for this piece, I'm actually going to use some Stampin' Dimensionals from Stampin' Up. I often use foam tape, but for today, rather than cutting all those little pieces, these foam dots are going to work just, or these Stampin' Dimensionals are going to work just perfectly. And then there are also some mini, well, there aren't any on that page. Let's see if I can find some more here that maybe has a few more of them on there. Here we go. Here's a piece that has a bunch of them. And what I did is I took my scissors and I cut one of them in half right down here at the bottom, because these are already pretty tiny, but I want something even smaller. I'm going to put one at the top of the J. I'm going to put one at the top of the oh, that was the Y, I guess. This is the top of the J. I'm going to put one up here, and it just barely fits up there. Then I'm going to take that one that I cut in half, and I'm going to use that to hold down the tails of the letters. Where's the other half? Here's the other half. Okay, so those will just hold down the tails. Then I can pull off that backing on all of those pieces. And I will put that on the front, kind of over the chocolate. So that's popped up. That's popped up right here. Okay, then I have these gems, which are also from Stampin' Up. Well, I had them just a minute ago. Possibly I lost them somewhere, but that's okay because I have another package. So these are champagne rhinestones from Stampin' Up. And I'm going to use the small ones. I have one that's already started being used. And I'm going to take these off of the paper, and using the edge of my scissors works pretty well for this. And I'm going to dot the J with one of them. And then I'm going to take 3 more and just put them randomly around. Well, this usually works a little better than this. Perhaps I need more coffee. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of put them randomly here and there around the page, just to give it a little bit of sparkle. Okay, and that's the card. We're finished. I'm going to close my glue before it completely dries out. There we go. And this is the card. The first version and the second version. And I think I like them equally as well. There's just a very slight difference between the two. I hope you enjoyed this video. You can always catch more details by going to kathyscraftroom.blogspot.com. I haven't yet put this card on there, but I will be doing it very soon, and you'll be able to see it there. And there is a link on that page to a Facebook group page that we have. It's a private group, but you can certainly go to that group and request. The link to that group you will find here, and that is the link for the Crazy Card Chics. So, thank you again. Have a wonderful rest of your Sunday morning, and I will be doing another video. I'm going to be doing marathon videos today. I'll be doing another one later today with 3 cards that I made in my last class for Women's Connection in May. Thank you.